What's up, everybody? So it's been a while since I've done just a video. So this kind of spurns off of the table breakers of last week when there was some discussion about the addition. And it brought to mind a thing that a lot of us may or may not remember: the addition wars. The addition wars started back when uh, we went from 2E into 3E, where a lot of people are like, well, this is no longer D. This is no longer, the game that I know and love. And to be honest, it was just different. And in thinking about it and looking at things and whatnot, I realized that there is quite a bit of that going on now with the way that even the folks like me who started out in 3E went to looking at fifth ed. So, the thing is that, yeah, they're different. It's different. It is uh, a whole different animal to what we know. So we want to stop and think about the different editions and what it means. When we look at the editions, we look at changes within the rules. Whereas in third ed went to a lot of skill set, as opposed to, you know, this is your cookie cutter character, which a lot of people like because they were actually able to take the character and essentially make it theirs. And that's the big thing is that with any role playing game, with the characters, they want to make it theirs. That is one thing that I think that it's kind of forgotten in the past. The whole thing of, well, if I want to be an elf, that's class. You know, that is one thing that we don't necessarily think of because that is a first edition type thing, and we want to make sure that we are paying homage to that first edition. You know, because if you look at it, Gary Gygax came up with the original set, and then Dave Arneson came up with his Blackmore rule set, and then him and Gary got together, and voila, First Ed was born. We're looking at something from the 1970s. Yes, it's going to be updated. Is everyone going to like it? Not necessarily. But if you're enjoying whatever version you're playing, whether it is an OSR, it's sci-fi, whatever it is, if you're enjoying it at your table, play it at your table. That is what the biggest thing is. I personally may not like the game that you're playing, so I will search out the games that I want to play. And what a lot of people, what think that is okay is to set and put up that, well, no, if you're doing this, you're this. If you're this, you're this. And sometimes you may not live in a heavy community with role playing, so you have to play what's there. You may have to play, fifth ed if you want to play. You may have to, play 3.0, 3.5, Pathfinder, first ed, even Pathfinder second ed, because that's what everyone's playing in your area. So the biggest thing to keep in mind is to play the games you love, and make those games yours. And that's the biggest thing that a lot of people don't think of is that the rules are there, but they're there to help with disagreements on how things are done. But the rules are not set in stone. The rules can do whatever they need them to. So, in like retrospect and thinking about it over this past week, the big thing is that we want to make sure that we are looking at not only our own games that we're playing and or running, but we're also looking at what the folks around us are playing and running. Maybe no one wants to play D&D at all. Maybe they want to pay the Conan 2D20. Maybe they want to play Traveler. Maybe they want to play Cyberpunk Red. There's so many different systems out there. And yes, we all go after the 2-ton gorilla that is fifth ed. Why? Because it's an easy target. That's what the big thing is. It's an easy target because we have played a certain game like myself. I've played first ed a couple times. I've played second ed a couple times. My thing is I like more crunch. And to me, 3.0, 3.5, and Pathfinder First Edition give me that crunch that I need. Being able to customize that character with the skills that I think my character would have. That the skills that I think that my character needs in order to survive. That is the big thing that why I tend to go to those systems is because number one, it's the what I know. Whereas a lot of folks, prior to this, talk about the things that they know, first ed, second ed, even the OSR stuff, because it's what they know. It's the rule system that they are most comfortable with. Now, in looking at this, we're looking at, let's look at the history of the game. As I mentioned, the chainmail rules came out, and then Dave Arson begins to replicate Blackmore variant, and then the rules are introduced to Gary, and a light bulb goes off. 74 D&D was released. They had a few self booklets in there. 71, the first edition was actually fully released. 82, the company, controversy, the satanic panic. They introduced the introduction of Beckme in the iconic red box. In 89, second edition. It's similar to first edition to keep most of the mechanical concepts intact, but many of the rule clarifications and simplifications designed to streamline the system, moving away from earlier games. So here we're already starting to see the move. In 92, Gary does, we're looking at, Twilight 2000 and of course Traveler. TSR sues for infringement, and they have little or nothing to do with D&D. But the court jury, the game of imagination takes place in a fantasy setting. There's plenty of similarities. Pretty much it's like, sorry. 97, TSR goes bankrupt. WotC buys it. WotC is best known for Magic the Gathering and, reinvigorates it with cash. And then in 2000, which is roughly about the time I started playing, Hasbro pops out, who's merged with Wizards, and comes up with the D20 system. Variety of different sub rules, character building focus, new mechanics to give players wealth choices, options to choose between, increased tactical combat options, in a true skills system. So they've moved away from this is what it is to this is where we're going. Overall, it goes well with the gaming public. And once again, few complaints from earlier edition. Of course, then the OGL comes out, and that becomes the core of many different gaming pieces. 2022, Dragon's Foot comes out. 2003, D&D, the D20 market crashed, and 3.5. So, basically, boom, it goes down and then comes back up. First D20 low quality, questionable product, like the Book of Erotic Fantasy, since it's evergreen product. the more like Nevergreen ones sell poorly. Overnight, the huge OGL products made obsolete and collapsed. 2003, Goodman Games, formerly known for Dragon Mech, Hodgepodge, starts the BCC. Game in line and heavily inspired by the earliest of D&D. Remember the good old days when adventurers were underground. The big thing is that with the move to 3035, the reason that the treasures starting to get better is because the monsters were built quite differently than they were before. So you needed some magic items in order to take down the monster. Castles and Crusades in 2004, which Gary Gygax helped. Ostrich and Friends in 2006, the old school reference and index compilation. 27, the Retro Clone Wars, where Osric and there was just a bunch of it. Of the OS, and this is where the true birth of the OSR starts to come, is during these Retro Clone Wars. It started a little bit before that, prior to Osric and everything else, but then it just started going from there. The winds of change below for several years. Wizards licensed 2 magazines, Dragon and Dungeon. It's Paizo. Early 2007, Wizards allows this magazine rights to lapse, leaving Paizo in the lurch. So they decided to come up with Pathfinder, which to them is the successor to 3.5. They go in, they clean up a bunch of the skills, they collapse them down, they make it more streamlined. So if you want to think about it as first edition, second edition, 3.5 was kind of first edish, where second edish was more of the Pathfinder. Of the 3035, a lot of people call it 3.75 of edition. Then Wizards announced fourth ed. Now, this is where Wizards starts going, oh crap. Because of the thing of it's like an MMO. And truthfully, if a lot of people want to play an MMO, they'll play an MMO. I mean, I've played fourth edition. I've played it, quite a bit. And that's exactly what it was like. You had at will, you had all different kinds of powers. In 2008, the year everything changed, tons of attention followed D&D between the upcoming new edition and the number of its early era RPG luminaries began to pass away. Gary Gygax, Eric Wojak, Artisan. Attention, to players looking back at history and really start to expand the older game, and with the older gamers, the OSR. Like I said, it kind of started back up here in 2007. Once the 2008 hits, that's where we start seeing the real versions. If this was the birth, this was the awkward teenage years, I guess best way to say. Fourth ed, its rules are more of a paradigm shift. It's completely different from 3035. And this is where I know of the very first for me of the edition wars, because there's people who played 3035. We refused to play fourth ed. Some of us didn't play it just to say, hey, we played it. We embraced it. We didn't like it. Paizo, beta test 2007, 2008, and Pathfinder becomes its own game. Minor fixes through support subscription services and output of source material. 3.5 flock to it and let fourth ed fall in its face. In 2008, the retro-inspired games like Meet the Future, Lamentation of the Flame Princess arrived, while earlier retro clones attempt to recreate the older rules. The retro-inspired games instead try to merge the old school with the rules that aren't exactly replicants of early additions. In other words, they include new rule designs. The USR base grows and expand thanks to its new outlet, making it even more multifaceted and broad than it already was. 2009, Wizards allows e-commerce sites to set up and sell older editions of D&D in digital format. Over fear of piracy, Wizards pulls its older D&D support. It doesn't go well over with the OSR crowd. Wizards released D&D Essentials in 2010. An event to streamline fourth ed games. Once again, it did not go over well. In 2011, Pathfinder overshadows fourth ed. 2012, D&D Next, which that sounds very familiar, is announced the fifth edition of the game, bringing many additional war factions, the OSR Pathfinder and 4E back to one table. Wizards table clues had come for a while, and such 4E lacked the products and their interviews and columns being more introspective of D&D history and direction. The mass public beta is announced, much like Paizo did with Pathfinder. It releases the name with mixed with somewhat optimistic reactions. Wizards began reprinting older D&D books, specifically the AD&D and Free 5 books, and was trying to cater to the OSR and Pathfinder audience. And, at that point, when we start to look at what really is going on with these edition wars, because rules change. And like I said before, play what you want at your table. There may be people that jump, holler, scream because you play fifth ed or you play 3A, 3.5 Pathfinder. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. As long as you're happy. These are the three things I want you to remember. One, is the story good? That's the big thing. Number two, are you and the other players / your friends having fun? And number three, can you walk away at the end of the day saying, you know what, that was good for you? Doesn't matter what you're playing. Whether, like I said, whether it's a D&D product, TSR, WotC, whatever, whether it's Traveler, 220, whatever. It doesn't matter as long as you are happy with what you're playing. So, folks, thank you very much for joining me for my little insight into this, and we'll catch you next time.